Hello, good evening, and welcome along to Business Today. I'm JORAMPAUL SONKO with Winnie Williams and Nakauchi on for the sign language interpretation. Now, government has been urged to emphasize continued expansion of domestic revenue mobilization base and the adequate utilization of resource to minimize its debt burden. Besides that, currently the country's debt stock has significantly increased from 9 trillion Ugandan shillings in the financial year 2018-2019 to 86.6 trillion in the upcoming financial year 2023-2024. Pedison Mumbere reports on the public debt alarming mode.
Parliament approved the national budget for the financial year 2023-2024, amounting to a total of 52.7 trillion, representing a 16% increase in the last 3 years from 59 trillion in 2020-2021. According to the Finance Ministry, the increase is as a result of a projected increase in domestic revenue mobilization, which the government has been urged to prioritize to minimize the debt burden.
And the most practical measure of managing debt is mobilizing more domestic revenue. That's why we are now putting more emphasis on collecting revenue. URA is under strict instruction and monitoring to raise revenue collection, which means they must fill those leakages, the areas where revenue has been leaking. Number one, under declarations. People under declaring, people have outright evasion. You have made money, but you don't pay URA.
So clearly, there are people who are making money, there are people who are exchanging cash but not paying taxes, like you and me who are working. So we need to increase our tax base to manage whether it's smuggling or a few other things that we need to do, or just being transparent about our records.
Economists have always alerted government about the escalating public debt stock, which has significantly increased from 9 trillion in financial year 2018-2019 to 86.6 trillion in financial year 2023-2024.
Borrowing will continue, but can we borrow only for what we must borrow for? So all these, the message that came through from the Permanent Secretary, the public investment plan is going to be reviewed starting next week, following and right on the projects themselves, but also on the conceptualization. So you want to come back and say, what multiplier effect does this project bring on the table? How fast does it give me results? You don't want to invest in planting coconuts when you have people in an ICU.
Uganda has one of the most sustainable debt repayment plans in the developing world. If you checked with our peers, Uganda is doing very well. Not by accident, but because of what government has been doing over years to manage the debt.
It should be noted that the proportion of the domestic revenue that goes into servicing debt has been overwhelmingly breached. CSOs noted that 24.1% of the revenue being allocated is going into servicing debt against a benchmark of less than 12.5%. This cripples government's capacity to deliver services. Doesn't this have a significant impact on the economy?
All countries do this, that instead of you contracting a new debt at a higher price, get these papers, because government borrows by issuing papers called treasury bills and bonds. Get those treasury bills and bonds which are maturing. When a treasury bill, for example, was 1 year, after 1 year you have to pay back the principal to the owner of that money. If it is a bond of 10 years and it is maturing, you pay back. But now government usually does not necessarily retire that debt. So it gets money from another person and pays this one and replaces that very debt with the same. Instead of going to the open market and you create sometimes a very high cost of repayment on the side of government, we roll over the debt and we pay the interest. We continue paying interest instead of paying back the principal.
Fred Muhomoza, an economist, notes that there is a need to switch from expenditure-driven budgeting to revenue-driven budgeting. Gobi was quick to reveal that the 2023-2024 budget does not include any purchase of vehicles except ambulances, security cars, and revenue mobilization cars to reduce the unnecessary expenditures, and that government has saved over 270 billion.
So not following up, as we've said, expenditure-driven budgeting. We must follow up revenue-driven budgeting, but also even purposes, the goals. What is it that you're going to do? Don't just borrow and build health facilities. They will not give you the value needed. Health sector is about my health and your health.
Already achieved, we have cut out those areas from the budget. The very budget which the minister read yesterday does not have purchase of vehicles except for ambulances, for security vehicles, and those for mobilization of revenue. Those are the only vehicles we are purchasing. And we have saved almost over 270 billion shillings.
Measures to maintain debt at a sustainable level over the medium term will include increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of government expenditure, particularly by allocating more resources to sectors that generate a high multiplier effect on growth. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Kanungu, as coffee farmers in Kanungu, Kisoro and the entire Chigezi sub-region are yet to eat big from their products as a coffee processing and value addition plant is installed in their area. Now, this will help improve the quality of coffee for domestic and export. Over 120,000 coffee farmers in the Omukazi Womtima project are likely to benefit from this plant. We have details.
Limited market price fluctuation, poor quality coffee, exploitation by middlemen, and lack of appropriate knowledge to add value to coffee for export are the major challenges that have led to low profitability of coffee to farmers, insufficient capital, and inefficiencies in coffee handling.
Koraje kwenka tuine mu challenges tinkabura kuzigamba kujana chairman agenda kuzimanya aba district ni bazimanya mazima tuine challenge emwe.
I cannot forget to mention some of the challenges we face as a SONKO. One being the fact that we lack permanent structures to operate in. Secondly, another challenge we have is lack of capital. We need at least 200 million for our SONKO.
The district production officer is appreciative of this initiative that is intertwined with the PDM and hopes that they will get better pay and there will be economic growth after the factory is fully utilized and coffee is commercialized.
Obino twara mwani ahabindi zindi za factory ochisa ho mwani ashanga kubonira kwa nangwa sete nyingi oshemererwa.
What affects us is only one thing. People are mixing our coffee with other brands. We take it to the factory and we are given money, but in reality they benefit or get profit by mixing the coffee. Therefore, this factory will be of great importance to us as farmers who want fairness.
We are going to improve farmers' coffee quality and volumes because the coming up of this modern facility, this coffee processing plant is going to improve farmers' incomes because it's going to be grading and sorting farmers' coffee, and that is part of quality control, quality improvement. And in that regard, the farmers are going to enjoy better prices, and it is even a government strategy of improving households' income. The moment household income is improved, then government objectives and intentions are achieved. Even this partnership development model, government is interested in improving household income, especially among its subsistence farmers. And most of these farmers who grow coffee are moving from subsistence to commercial. And coffee is one of the leading cash crop in Kanungu. So by improving its quality and processing processes, then we're able to get better prices for farmers and improve household income and welfare of farmers. This is a milestone for Kanungu district in terms of coffee.
Consolata Tumwesije, the CEO of Omukazi Womtima project, says it was started 8 years ago to target the empowerment of women and youth to ensure women start being financially productive and supportive to their families. She adds that though they started with heifers and biogas, now they put coffee growing at the forefront, with now 12,000 households and 50,000 youth under this project in Kanungu district alone.
We have about 55,000 households, but now Omukazi Womtima supports 12,000 households with the coffee. Omukazi Womtima model is a model which targets a woman as a change agent in the household and youth as village agents. So when we are producing coffee, we produce coffee with women and their household, of course husband and children. And when we are targeting a household, we support a woman to know how best to grow coffee, agronomy, how to plant coffee, how to take care of it, and when it grows and it yields, then how to pick the coffee seeds and how to dry them. So that is what we train women.
Nelson Tugume, chairperson of SISU, says the plant will initially cost 1.5 billion in the first phase, though by the time of completion in January next year, it will have consumed over 4.5 billion. Finally, the groundbreaking of the factory has been done by SISU board members, district administrators and coffee farmers in the area.
What the coffee investment consortium members that you've been seeing, his big investment over $1 million really qualifies for him to receive more support, because we know this support will really come to a fertile ground.
Rona Nahawe compiled this story.
All right, now, with a modest allocation from the 2.2 trillion shillings budget for climate change mitigation, there's need for comprehensive interventions to effectively conserve biodiversity due to economic consequences of biodiversity loss. To address this pressing issue, Total Energies EP has signed a 5-year memorandum of understanding with the National Forestry Authority. Their collaborative efforts will focus on conserving the Budongo Central Forest, as well as through the implementation of smart technology, the community engagement and biodiversity restoration programs aligned with the Tilenga project.
Budongo Forest, a vital ecosystem known for its diverse and unique species, is facing significant threats from deforestation and human encroachment. As per CSBAG's 2021 report, government spends approximately $942 million on climate financing. Total Energies EP has partnered with the National Forestry Authority to conserve Budongo Forest. This collaboration combines resources and expertise to implement effective long-term protection and sustainable management strategies through contributing financial resources to support the National Forestry Authority's initiatives, including conservation strategies, reforestation programs, and community engagement projects, promoting environmental awareness and sustainable livelihoods through these technologies.
Tilenga, as we all know, is a key project for Uganda and for Total Energies. But the fact is, it's located in a sensitive environment. So together with all our stakeholders, we are committed and we have a mission to achieve a net positive impact on the Tilenga project areas and the surrounding landscape. We have therefore, as Total Energies, operators of the Tilenga project, committed to conserve and enhance the rich biodiversity within the project area by executing the project in line with national and international best standards to achieve positive outcomes for biodiversity and commitment.
According to Executive Director of the National Forestry Authority, the government aims to raise the forest cover from 13.4% to 15% by 2025. Collaborations like the one with Total Energies are instrumental in achieving this goal.
The goal of government is to increase the forest cover to 15% by 2025. Currently, we're at around 13%. And through such partnerships is one way where we can get the resources, get the logistics for strengthening forest protection and thereby contributing to the increase in forest cover. Under this MOU, we are going to do forest patrols by use of technology. We are anticipating the use of what we call smart technologies. SMART is spatial monitoring and reporting tool, which is used in forestry management. It is one of the tools which we are now using in forest management and also building into the forest information management system. So this is a tool which we are employing now, and under this MOU, Total will support the use of that tool.
As part of efforts to conserve biodiversity and reduce carbon emissions, the Ministry of Energy has recently signed a memorandum of understanding, and Caroline Aguti provides further details on this initiative.
The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development signed an MOU with the IUCN, which is the International Union for Conservation. The MOU is really aimed at ensuring that they support us to mobilize the resources, but also they are going to support us with the capacity building in terms of development of the tools, protocols, and procedures on how to collect data and also to monitor biodiversity from the landscape approach. So we expect that our MOU with the IUCN is going to help us as Ministry of Energy get more climate finance, but also we have the other development partners like GIZ, UNDP, the World Bank. Right now the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development is going to implement a very big project, an electricity energy access scale-up project, where we have different components in terms of clean cooking. And we are hoping that with that we are able to reduce our carbon emissions.
Being a cost-recoverable company involved in oil and gas projects within the biodiversity program, the oil company recognizes the utmost importance of reducing carbon footprints as a crucial aspect of their corporate social responsibility.
We have a target to restore wetlands and forests that are carbon sinks, and through that we will contribute to the reduction of the carbon footprint. There was another question around what we are doing to restore the vegetation. We are restoring all vegetation, specifically with the species we found there. We also have a plant nursery for restoring all the grasslands.
This partnership demonstrates their dedication to biodiversity conservation and sustainable development in Uganda. They aim to promote the unique biodiversity of Budongo Central Forest Reserve while also mitigating the economic consequences of biodiversity loss. This collaboration is a significant step towards achieving the government's goal of increasing forest cover and ensuring a sustainable future for Uganda. Runana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now, furthermore, equity deepens deep into Rwanda, as the Equity Group has reached an agreement and was chosen to take over Rwanda Bank in a $47 million transaction since the Rwanda Bank was unable to maintain its higher level of money production. Now, Equity Bank disclosed that it had signed a contract to acquire a 91.9% stake in Copenhagen General D Bank Plek, that is Cogen Bankwe. We have more details in this report.
Equity Bank has put a new set of controlling Rwandan Bank at 54.68 million francs. Rwandan Bank has established better methods of working due to the great doubling of Kenyan profits in the East African region in just a year. The Rwandan Bank that produces 7.26 billion has agreed to sign the 91.9% stock in Champion General de Banque Public Limited Company with a profitability chart of Kenya on Wednesday. The government of Rwanda, Sanlam VA Public Limited Company, Social Security Board and Mrs. Judith Mugirasoni have promised to be undertaken by Equity plus the remaining shares. This is the second attempt by Equity to buy a bank in Rwanda, coming months after the collapse of a deal in which Equity was to buy 62% of the share capital of Rwanda's Banque Populaire de Rwanda from Atlas Mara. The deal flopped in July 2020 alongside that of buying 100% of African Banking Corporation of Zambia, African Banking Corporation Tanzania and African Banking Corporation Mozambique. The latest proposed transaction will deepen Equity's acquisition drive in the region, as has been seen with its competitors who have been cutting their reliance on profits from Kenya by expanding in the region.
All right, now we talk matters private sector budget overview. As government pushes for the private sector growth that ultimately widens the much needed tax revenue, high interest on accrued sector credit inhibits growth. Now, overview from the private sector in regards to the upcoming financial year indicates such worry, as 19.5 trillion shillings was recorded just last year and industrial growth at just 6.2%.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the Finance Minister, Honorable Kasaija, and the Excellency for giving a good boost for manufacturing locally and adding value. So I think most of this contents of local value addition is encouraged in this budget by basically giving taxes of 35% on imported goods. I think that was basic my take. The rest are very good in agriculture also. I think value additions are substantially more, and I'm sure that Uganda's growth rate will remain 7% next 5 years, which the minister is claiming. So it's a good package. Congratulations to all the Ugandans and best of luck. The setback part which I found out was on industrial credit usage is only 3.9% and trade credit usage is 17%. So somehow or another the trading is still taking major chunk in the investment on credit funds. So maybe there are some constraints, I don't know, but maybe we'll have to find out and study, absorb the details, and then we'll get you more information.
That's why we are carrying out a full program now. We have a tax exemption rationalization plan. We are working with the IMF to establish the merits and the demerits of these tax exemptions. Those which don't work, we are going to stop them. Those which work, definitely we are going to continue supporting them.
Any timelines on this?
Yes, in this very budget, the minister has read. You have seen a number of measures. So we are beginning implementation of our tax exemption rationalization agenda next financial year, effective July 1st.
Thank you so much.
My question is about the
I'll leave your message.
Because we have now built a very strong foundation, and this is the minister has highlighted it. In yesteryears, we had very many challenges affecting economic activities. We didn't have infrastructure, for example, electricity. We didn't have transport infrastructure. This accumulation of these infrastructures happened in just about 10 years, ever since government from the NDP2 started this agenda. That definitely has provided a good foundation for us to go forward and build a competitive economy. When you look at capital itself now as a factor of production, we have been having a challenge of high interest rates, especially for agriculture, high interest rates for industry, and high interest rates for people doing business, especially in SMEs, because they are risky. Now, government has come in to intervene. With that, government is distorting, and that distortion is positive because it's going to cause a downward trend on interest rates. And also, it's providing now access to this affordable and patient capital. So, when the president says we can now almost jumpstart this economy and it takes off in a short time, is not basing on utopia, is now basing on that trend he knows very well when he took power 37 years ago and where we are now. He has told us we have achieved minimum recovery. Now we want to engage in industrialization. And that's why I'm so happy that he has insisted now on this message to all our leaders, all my colleagues, the bureaucrats in government, the private sector people out there, even if clergy or traditional leaders, average Ugandans, for all of us to understand there is no way you can develop a country by doing more of what you have done before. Countries are developed by industrialization and modernization of activities that people are engaged in. How are people spending their lives? We must modernize services, we must modernize businesses, we must modernize the homesteads, and this is now the agenda government is on. So I want to tell you, in the next, like the president has said, in the next 5 years coming, let us compare notes. Uganda will be at another level. If you listen to that budget very well, it has 2.7 trillion shillings going into value addition areas. areas of adding value to our products, but also areas of supporting the entire value chain. Because you can't just invest all the money, for example, at the end value of adding value. We are getting the entire value chain. Like for coffee, we are supporting it from research to the market. For livestock, the same. We are going to be able to achieve that by having a holistic approach to it. And there are now substantial money going towards. I want to challenge any Ugandan who has been following budgets for many years to go and check every word the ministers said now has money allocated to it, except those which are policy issues. He tells you we are going to support PDM, there is 1 trillion shillings. On that. That money of PDM, by the way, we got it from the budget itself last year. And now we are multiplying it every year. We never borrowed even a coin. He has talked of supporting industrialists. We have now capitalized the UDB at a tune of 1.4 trillion shillings. Each year we are adding on capital. He talked of Emioga to support other people who are doing small businesses, the average Ugandans. We are now adding 100 billion shillings every year on Emioga. He has talked of the minister that we are going to be doing more exports. We have brought a full program worth $200 million. $200 million, that is nearly 800 billion shillings. Going to SMEs to export, to support them to export. So in other words, what I'm saying, the budget now, whatever you hear in words, is reflected in terms of allocative efficiency.
All right, now there you have it. When you look at some of the tax exemptions that are actually going to be cut out of revenue mobilization, infrastructure funding, among other initiatives, have been raised as highlights for the progress so far of the financial year 2022-2023. Now we are looking also ahead for the financial year 2023-2024. There has been an insight on the budget limits from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and as the Permanent Secretary to the Treasury, Ramadan Gobi, has highlighted fully at what they will be focusing on in the next financial year. Well, after the break, we continue with more business today, so stick around with us.